How's it going, everybody, and welcome to the channel. Hope everybody's having a freaking awesome day so far. Before we get into today's video, I want to make an awesome announcement. I cannot believe what just happened. I just got this message this morning. A few days ago, I was offered the opportunity to join the YouTube Partner Program. I put in the application, and they got back to me today saying, we've been accepted. I want to thank each and every one of you guys so freaking much for your viewership, your subs, all the amazing comments, awesome words of advice. I could not have gotten here without you guys. Thank you all so much. This is a milestone that I did not expect to hit for at least 12 to 18 months. Keep in mind that this channel is only 4 months old. We're 4 months and 8 days at this point. So this is still a relatively new channel. So to hit a milestone like this fast, it's unheard of. Again, I did not expect this. I am literally flabbergasted. So again, thank you guys so much. I'm nearly speechless, and I definitely cannot wait to see what the future holds for Repair, Revive, Repeat. With that being said, today we're going to be taking a look at an old Optiplex. This is system number 4 of 7 that I was able to save from e-waste. This thing was destined to be recycled. Fortunately, I was able to save these 7 systems, and this is one of them. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to take a look at this thing, see what it's got on the inside, see what kind of games this thing can run, and explore general use options for a system like this. With that being said, let's get into the video. I hope you guys enjoy. Alright you guys, this is our system in question. We are working with a Dell Optiplex 7010. Front panel indicates that we are rocking an i5, probably a 3rd or 4th gen. First impressions of this thing is it's incredibly clean. We've got a little bit of dust and debris, but minimal scratches, no dents, nothing major. This thing is in phenomenal shape. So if we go ahead and turn this thing around, you will see that this thing also has an upgraded power supply, and we are rocking a graphics card. I can't wait to see what this thing has on the inside. I can't wait to see if this thing works. Let's get this thing hooked up and see what we're working with. Alright, so we got this thing all nice and hooked up and ready to go. Let's go ahead and see if this thing will actually power on. Alright, so we do got power. But do we get picture on the screen? Come on. Alright, it is kind of taking a while here. This is making me a little bit nervous. Alright, you guys, so after some time, we have not gotten any picture on the screen. So, we're going to go ahead and get this thing unhooked, pop this panel off, and see what we got going on the inside. Alright, so with the front panel popped off here, we can see a little more clearly as to what it is that we're working with. And one thing that I'm immediately noticing is we have an EVGA power supply here. Not sure the wattage yet. We're going to have to get this thing out and see. But this thing looks absolutely perfect. It looks brand new. Aside from that, it looks like we're dealing with an ATI card. Not sure what kind specifically. The inside is also really clean. Aside from that, we are working with only 1 stick of RAM. And then we have our wires and cables kind of just going all over the place. So, since we're not getting picture on the screen, I'm going to go ahead and pull this card out and swap graphics cards and see if we can get picture with a different card. Okay, so now that we got our card out, we can actually see what we're working with here. This thing is pretty darn cool, definitely quite old, but in relatively good shape. This is a Radeon HD 2600 XT. So this card, I do believe, came out right around 2007, 2008, so it is quite old. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and we're going to swap in my trusty dusty test card. We have a GTX 750. So we're going to go ahead and throw this in here real quick and see if we cannot get some picture on the screen. Alright, so with our new graphics card installed, do we think that this thing is going to give us a post? Fingers crossed. Come on. Alright, so it did power on again. But do we get picture on the screen? And we do. Freaking awesome news. Let's see if we can go ahead and get some specs on this thing real quick. Alright, so we were able to get this thing to boot into the BIOS. Looks like we're dealing with 4 gigs of RAM and an i5 3570 CPU. This is a 4-core, 4-thread CPU that launched right around 2012. So this thing is definitely getting up there in age. It does have a TDP of around 77 watts, which is not bad for a processor of its age. It does turbo boost up to 3.8 gigahertz, but its base frequency is right around 3.4. So not bad at all. So we're gonna go ahead and get this thing unplugged now that we know it works, get it all nice and cleaned up. We're gonna do a RAM upgrade. I would like to run at least 16 gigs of RAM on this particular build, and then I will show you guys the GPU that I plan on using as well. Stay tuned, this is gonna be a fun one. Alright, so first things first, we're gonna go ahead and get this GPU out of here real quick. Then we're gonna go ahead and get everything disconnected here. I wanna see what PSU we are working with. Alright, so now that we got everything nice and disconnected, we have our power supply out. We can see that we are working with an EVGA 460 BP. This is a 460 watt Bronze Plus PSU. Has absolutely zero dust on the inside. This thing literally looks brand spanking new. How something like this goes to e-waste just blows my mind. Let's go ahead and move on to the motherboard. Okay, so with our motherboard being out, we can see a little bit better here what we're actually working with. And one thing I am noting, this is one thing I don't like about manufacturers, is the proprietary fan inputs for these types of boards. They're very proprietary. You have to use their fans, and I can't stand that. However, this particular board and this system is not entirely proprietary. There are some upgrades that you can do to this thing, such as the power supply. You can run a better graphics card, more RAM. Overall, this is not a bad platform. So we're going to go ahead and get our case off to the side here and see what our thermal paste looks like. Alright, so with our cooler being off, we can see that there is not a lot of paste left on here. It's quite old. In fact, it's literally so old it literally doesn't even leave any residue when I touch it. So completely dried out, totally nasty. And then for our cooler, it's the same story. Dried out, nasty. Definitely no longer doing its job. I can guarantee that if we were to test this system how it was, it probably would have began to overheat and eventually throttle. So we're going to go ahead and get this cleaned off, get everything nice and dusted off, and get some new thermal paste on here. Alright, so we got this thing all nice and dusted off. We have our old thermal paste off of here. Let's go ahead and move on to the cooler. Alright, so we got our cooler all nice and cleaned here. Looks like somebody has cleaned it before. We have a couple gouges here and there on the cooler, but nothing too major, not a big deal. Let's go ahead and get some thermal paste on this motherboard and get this cooler remounted. Alright, looks like plenty of thermal paste to me. Let's go ahead and get our cooler back on. Alright, so with the cooler all nice and mounted, we're going to go ahead and take a quick look at the case real fast, and then we're going to take a look at what upgrades are going to be going into this thing. So in terms of the case, it's almost spotless in here. There's some dust bunnies here and there, but nothing major. Off camera, I'll go ahead and give this a quick little wipe out, but honestly, it doesn't really need a whole lot of attention. So with that being said, let's go ahead and put this off to the side and see what kind of upgrades this PC is going to get. Alright, so in terms of RAM, we're going to be installing a 16 gig kit of Crucial Ballistix RAM. This does run at 1600 megahertz, so it'll definitely get the job done. I have used this in previous builds before, so I know that this works really well. So let's go ahead and move on to the GPU that we're going to be using. So the GPU that we're going to be going with is an RX 5500 XT by ASRock. This is a 4 gig card. These cards definitely perform very well. This is right up there with the RX 580. Definitely a good card. So let's go ahead. We're going to get this thing all together. When I come back, we will have this thing together and ready to test. I can't wait to show you guys the games that I have planned for this. So we have this thing all nice and back together. A lot cleaner, a lot nicer. Definitely love how these builds look after they've been completely rehabilitated. Did a little bit more cable management as best I could, but that's about as good as it gets. Some of you might notice that the graphics card is not yet installed. Well, there's a reason for that. So unfortunately, whenever I try to install this thing, it hits on this SATA cable right here. It will not seat all the way. So I have a solution for that. So what I decided to do is use a riser cable. Hopefully this will work. I'm pretty sure it will. I do want to test this card with this build and see how it performs. So I decided to go kind of Mad Max style, and we're just gonna mount this GPU on the outside of the case. So when I come back, we will have this thing all put together and ready to go, and we're gonna see what kind of performance we can get out of this old gal. Alright you guys, this is what I came up with, and somehow it works. And it doesn't even look bad. I cannot believe it. There was even a spot for me to mount the GPU. So it does kind of sit outside the case a little bit, not a big deal. This should be perfectly fine. I cannot believe how well this actually turned out, especially since I had to massively improvise to get this thing to actually sit in here. So let's go ahead, get this thing hooked up, and see if we cannot get it to boot into Windows. So just a quick news flash for you guys. PC giveaway is going up in about 2 weeks. I will be giving away 2 PCs to 2 lucky winners. You must be a subscriber for at least 10 days, and you must be in the Discord. So if you're interested in that, go ahead and join the Discord. With that being said, let's get back into the video. Alright, so now we got this thing all hooked up and ready. Let's go ahead and see if we can get it to power back on and boot into Windows. Is it going to do it? So we do got power, fans are spinning up, but do we get picture on the screen? Alright, we are booting into Windows. When I come back, we will have a bunch of games downloaded and ready to go. Alright, so first up we have Grand Theft Auto 5, and I'm immediately met with a pleasant surprise. This game is running buttery smooth. We are running it right around 70 FPS, which is absolutely phenomenal. We are running at max settings, 1080p. Everything is turned up. This thing runs absolutely fantastic. Our GPU is running just under 50C. Our CPU is a little bit toasty, but running perfectly fine at under 70C. The fact that this system runs this game this good is just, it's insane. Granted, this game has had many years to be optimized, and it does run on most systems, but for a 3rd gen i5, this is absolutely fantastic. You're looking at a system that you can get for right around $100. So definitely not bad. Thoroughly impressed. I love these older powerhouses. They just work so freaking well. And if you're new to gaming on a PC and you're looking for a budget build, something like this would be perfect. Just keep in mind that there is no upgrade path. This is definitely a dated system, but this just goes to show that systems like this do not belong in e-waste. That it's just, it hurts my soul to see things like this being thrown out on the regular. So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and move on to the next game. This one is an absolute win. Alright, so next up is Palworld, and Palworld is absolutely a demanding game. However, we are running at nearly 80 FPS. We're looking at right around 80 to 90% utilization on our card. We're running at 53C on our GPU, and our processor is running right around 64 to 65C. This game is running absolutely fantastic on this system. I do notice some mild hitching here and there, but it's very seldom. It would not make this unplayable by any means. In fact, this is absolutely acceptable. I would have no problem playing the game like this on a budget. And now that I've been loaded in the game for a little while, I'm getting no hitching, no lagging, no stuttering. It is running absolutely perfect. So again, the fact that a system like this that is considered dated can run newer games like this well is just a major statement. I cannot be more happy with this build. And for somebody trying to game on a budget, this would be absolutely perfect. So with that being said, we are going to go ahead and move on to the next game. Alright, so next up we are in Valheim. Before we get into this test, I did want to bring up one point about Palworld real fast. Something that I did forget to mention was the fact that we were running at all medium-high settings on Palworld, which makes it just all the more impressive. So let's go ahead and get into testing on Valheim. And right off the bat, we are running in the 80s. So definitely not bad. Looks like we're dipping down into the 60s now, but the gameplay is relatively smooth. I am noticing a little bit of hitching here and there, but this is also all high settings. And we are running relatively good. I mean, it's almost perfect. And now that we're getting some gameplay in, it does appear to be smoothing out a little bit. So definitely impressive. With that being said, you guys, we are going to go ahead and move on to our last game. Alright folks, so on to our last game. This is a game called Once Human. This game is always a true test of the potential of your system. If your system can run a game like this, you're going to be able to run hundreds if not thousands of other amazing games. Check this out. We are at over 100 FPS using all medium and high settings. We have nearly 100% utilization on our GPU. We are running right around 65C on this GPU. And our i5 is at 60C. Absolutely crazy. This thing is a little powerhouse. I cannot believe how some of these older systems just run so freaking good. It blows my mind every time. This is the true definition of gaming on a budget, and you can absolutely 100% do it. We are sitting at over 100 FPS, nearing 120, and we're in a relatively heavy textured area as well. 100% impressive. This system is blowing my mind. So I think with that, we've done enough testing. You guys can see what this thing can do. Absolutely amazing turnout. This system, again, is totally impressive. I know I sound kind of repetitive, but sometimes I get so speechless when it comes to systems like this. So that's going to do it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Again, I want to thank all my subscribers, all my viewers, everybody that has supported me up until this point. You guys are freaking amazing. Until next time, I will catch you in the next one. Stay safe in the world.